Uthman is back with more ignorance than last time. Listen as he presses a Christian on Exodus 21.
You believe that this is the word of God, right?
Yes.
Perfect.
Of course, yeah.
So when it says, if a man beats his male or female servant with a rod, so that he dies under his hand, he shall surely be punished. Notwithstanding, if he remains alive a day or two, he shall not be punished, for he is his property. You believe a man is somebody else's property, and if
Uthman questions the Christian on God permitting Israelites to own slaves, as the verse states, when a man strikes his slave. This can easily be understood in the modern context of the term, as the Western world condemns slavery in all its forms. The context of Exodus 21 is laws regarding slavery. In verse 21, it gives a law that if a man strikes his slave and they are to live, the owner of the slave is not to be punished, as the slave is his. On a surface level reading, as Uthman has done, we could gather that God in the Bible condones slavery and permits some kind of class system. But a deeper understanding of the text adds more dimension to this verse. God has just brought the Israelites out of slavery in Egypt. They would be walking into freedom and governing themselves for the first time. In Exodus, God is laying out laws about life for the Israelites. The previous chapter to 21 is the law, as in the 10 Commandments. God is introducing the uncivilized Israelites to civil living. God calls the Israelites a stiff-necked people in chapter 32, verse 9, when he sees that they have created a golden calf as a representation of him. This term, stiff neck, means stubborn or hard to govern, like that of an animal unwilling to obey its master. The Israelites had been in captivity for a long time. They were subject to the Egyptian rulers who had beat them and treated them poorly. And after God liberates them, they were no longer subject to the tyranny of Egypt. This sudden freedom could have led to chaos, as they were no longer under the law as slaves to a much stronger people. And God's plan was to make the Israelites a nation of priests to the whole world. And to get them from having the mindset of slaves to that of priests, there would need to be a gradual progression, like how a parent would teach their children in stages. With this in mind, Exodus 21, 20-21, gives us two laws that swings between extremes. Verse 20 gives the law that if a man strikes his slave, male or female, he is to be punished. However, if the slave lives, he is not to be punished. Keep in mind, there were no laws in the ancient Near East that protected the rights of slaves. Neither the Code of Ur-Namur nor the Code of Hammurabi give certain rights to slaves. So the fact that Exodus 21 states that a slave could be avenged is groundbreaking. What makes it even more significant is that the avenging would be carried out by the Israelites themselves. Verse 21 says that if a slave survives, the master is not to be punished. Why is that? The implication in this verse is that if a master were to strike his slave so bad that they were on the verge of death, then the possibility of avenging the slave is open. But this isn't all that's said on the matter. Just 5 verses later, there is another law regarding the mistreatment of slaves. Verse 26-27 states, when a man strikes the eye of his slave, male or female, and destroys it, he shall let that slave go free because of it. If he knocks the tooth out of a slave, male or female, he is to let the slave go free because of the tooth. This shows that the mistreatment of slaves was not condoned. God does give other examples on how to treat people, foreigners, sojourners, and non-Israelites. Exodus 22:21, Deuteronomy 10:18-19, and Leviticus 19:34 are just some to name a few. Another thing to note, these were laws set for a certain people in a certain time. These laws do not still apply to all today.
you believe a man is somebody else's property, and if he's killed and if he lives a day, there's no punishment?
Can I answer that question?
Yes, please. That's why I asked you.
It's based on the time.
Is God not just in this time?
Yes.
Okay,
God
but this
is
is just.
just.
Okay, so this is justice, that if I beat my slave, and as long as he lives a day, it's okay, he's my property. Come on, bro.
Okay,
come
hold on.
on. Come on. You know better.
Uthman asks, Do you believe a man is someone else's property, and if he is killed and lives a day, there is no punishment? Which, as we have learned, is selective reading. He asks this question without the appropriate context. However, let's examine what the Quran says about slavery and ask Uthman the same question. Surah 2, 178. O you who have believed, prescribed for you is legal retribution for those murdered, the free for the free, the slave for the slave, the female for the female. But whoever overlooks his brother anything, then there should be a suitable follow-up and payment to him with good conduct. This is an alleviation from your Lord and a mercy, but whoever transgresses after that will have a painful punishment. This verse is saying, if man A kills the slave of man B, then the slave of man A is to be killed too. This is what it means by like for like. Surah 4, 3. If you fear you might fail to give orphan women their due rights, if you were to marry them, then marry another woman of your choice, 2, 3, or 4. But if you are afraid you will fail to maintain justice, then content yourselves with one of those bondswomen in your possession. This way you are less likely to commit injustice. In other words, it is haram to be unjust to a free Muslim girl, but it is not haram to be unjust to a slave. Surah 4, 24. Also forbidden are married women, except female captives in your possession. This is Allah's commandment to you. Lawful to you are all beyond these, as long as you seek them with your wealth in a legal marriage, not in fornication. Give those you have consummated marriage with their due dowries. It is permissible to be mutually gracious regarding the set of dowries. Surely Allah is all-knowing, all-wise. In this case, free Muslim women who are married are off limits for your pleasure. But a slave you own, married or unmarried, they are permissible by Allah for you to use. Surah 23, 5-6. Those who guard their chastity, except with their wives and those in their possession, for then they are free from blame. This is repeated in Surah 70, 29 and 30. But if that weren't enough, let's check out what the hadiths say about Muhammad and his slaves. Al-Bayaq 4184. A slave came to pledge to the Prophet to immigrate, and the Prophet did not realize that he was a slave. Then his master came looking for him. The Prophet said, "Sell him to me," and he bought him for 2 black slaves. Then he did not accept the pledge from anyone until he asked, "Is he a slave?" Sahih al-Bukhari 7263. I came, and behold, Allah's Messenger was staying in the attic room, and a black slave of Allah's Messenger was at the top of the stairs. I said to him, "Tell the Prophet that here is Umar bin al-Khattab asking for permission to enter." Then he admitted me.
You believe a man is somebody else's property and
Let's ask Uthman the same question. Do you believe you can own another human being? And if a man kills one of your slaves, you are permitted to kill one of his slaves like for like. And if you wish to expose yourself to a woman and have intercourse with her, it best to be done with a slave girl whom you can use to your pleasure. And do you also believe that black slaves are worth less than non-black slaves? If Uthman or another Islamic apologist claims that this was a different time and place, they would also have to explain how this works if the Quran is perfect, literal, infallible, and timeless. Furthermore, Surah 12, 111 claims that the Quran is a detailed explanation of all things. This would inherently include the subject of slavery. Of course, if the Quran is wrong on anything, its claim to being a divine revelation would cease to be, and it would lose all credibility. But I'm not done with Uthman yet. Check out how he questions the Bible in the creation account.
First, the earth or the sky? What was created first? Because here in Genesis, under 9 and 10, it looks like the earth was created on day 3. But in the same Genesis, if you look in the next chapter, it looks like the sky was created first. So then in day 6, then God said, let us make man. So where was man created? Where was earth created? Was earth created first or man created first?
Uthman asks which was created first, the earth or the sky. Then he proceeds to answer his own question.
But in the same Genesis, if you look in the next chapter, it looks like the sky was created first. So then
he moves to another question. Did God create man first or earth first?
in day 6, then God said, let us make man. So where was man created? Where was earth created? Was earth created first or man created first?
This is another example of Uthman's ignorance, as he does not seem to know what question to ask about the Genesis account. He is just rambling questions hoping something sticks. The Bible states in Genesis 1 that the sky came first. In Genesis 2, the closest reference we get to the sky is God had not yet caused it to rain. In Genesis 1, God creates the earth first and man last. In Genesis 2, God creates the earth first and man second. I believe Uthman is confused about the order of which God created the garden. Man first or garden first? The answer is simple. Unlike the Quran, which claims to be literal, infallible, and a perfect revelation and explanation of all things from Allah, the Bible is inspired by God and written by man, and Genesis is more literary than literal. Genesis 1 displays the creation of the world with God as the supreme being and humanity referenced in general terms, i.e. male and female, but Genesis 2 is more specific, naming humanity in Adam and Eve. They are given a home in the garden, and their relationship with God is intimate. The purpose of Genesis 1 and 2 are not the same, as they are not equal accounts of creation. One is detailed and records creation in general terms, and the other lacks much of the world building, but is more personal. One more thing to note is that the Bible, unlike Muhammad, who treated people based on their race or sex, states that both male and female are made equally in the image of God, and that all humans, both Jew and Gentile, black and white, male and female, free and slave, are all equal in God's eyes. Once again, Uthman displays arrogance and takes the opportunity to mock a Christian. He shows little respect to this man as he turns away to address the second man.
How you doing?
Do you know?
Do I know what was created first? I can tell you what the Quran tells us. Yes, the earth was created first.
Yeah, that would make sense if you put the earth first and then
Yeah.
put man on it.
Right? But here, it's...
We're gonna set a time for that.
Yeah,
We will come and talk about it.
Okay. Oh, you're done. I got you. Get the number of the brothers. We'll set it up. Okay. And we had that.
He dismisses the first man to talk to the second, and in light of what we know about Muhammad and his treatment of certain peoples, we can only speculate why Uthman felt it were okay to mock this man, not failing to show us all why Islam is not divinely revealed and why he himself is not to be trusted.